Welcome to our program, Dear Brothers and Sisters, where you will hear the raw truth. My name is George. I am your brother, and I love you. We are pleased to announce that this program is partially sponsored by the Ethiopian Orthodox Coptic Church located on 7th Avenue and 121st Street in Harlem. And we thank them for their sponsorship and hope that it will continue. We remind you of our book, Dear Brothers and Sisters, Gender and Its Responsibility, which contains the basis for much of what you hear discussed on this program. Also, we have audio tapes of some of our more popular programs and videotapes available of all of our programs. Also, we have flyers and brochures which are available to you at no charge, which you can distribute to your friends and acquaintances and tell them about our program and our message. All you need to do is call in on 874-7900, extension 1329. 874-7900, extension 1329. We have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week answering service there, and your requests will be handled very promptly. Today's topic, we'll backtrack a little. 2 weeks ago we discussed about the seen and the unseen qualities in our society, and last week we showed that it was the unseen that produces the seen. This week we're going to show the proper relationship between the unseen, which is the masculine principle, and the seen, which is the feminine principle. We're going to get into a little practicality of how we interrelate. However, as is our practice, we review the 7 major issues affecting society at the beginning of each program. We now have 1.5 million men in prison. We have the highest incarceration rate in the world, which is another way of saying we throw more men into cages in this country than in any other country in the world. Secondly, we have 1 million of our youth in street gangs. And street gangs, you know, are essentially the masculine principle that didn't work in the system. It oozed out of the system, and it established really a tribe. We have a tribal structure in our street gangs. They have rules, regulations, discipline, rites of passage, a sense of belongingness. And by the way, this street gangs and the tribal structure which they are establishing only confirms what I had discussed the last 2 meetings, that the unseen knowledge, wisdom, comes through the masculine principle. Now, here are these youth, most of whom had very little education, establishing a tribal structure, the same kind of a structure that has served humankind since the beginning of history. Something to think about. Number 3, the condition of our women, physically, mentally, and emotionally, is rapidly deteriorating. Among our women, there's an increasing incidence of lung cancer, of cirrhosis of the liver, of substance abuse, of chlamydia, human papillomavirus. Our women are overworked, stressed out, confused, apprehensive about the safety of themselves and their children. Number 4, crime is rampant in this nation, regardless of the current statistics that say it's dipped this past year. It's dipped because we've swept the streets of men and thrown them into prison. Wait till the next crop of young men hit the streets again, and then we'll see how much crime there is. Number 5, our educational system is in a state of dysfunction. High schools are holding pens where little more is learned than how to use a condom. Colleges and universities give increasingly higher grade point averages to students with lower and lower SATs. Pretty soon our college graduates will all have A's and none will know anything. Our economy is stagnant at best because we have forgotten what creates jobs. It's new, N-E-W, that creates jobs, and new comes from the creative will of the masculine gender. And number 7, morality and ethics have disappeared from the media. Those are the 7 major issues affecting us today, my brothers and sisters, and it is the objective of men's action to correct those conditions. Now, getting to the lesson at hand today, I said it would be the proper relationship of the seen and the unseen, or let's say the proper relationship of men to women and women to men. 2 weeks ago, we discussed the unseen world, the unseen world of men and the physical seen world of women. Last week we mentioned that nothing is accomplished in this universe until there is a pregnancy. In fact, I like that statement. Nothing is accomplished in the universe until there is a pregnancy. But pregnancies do not occur until it is initiated by the masculine principle. Right? It's not just with babies, okay? It's with everything. It's with ideas, with concepts, with philosophies. Just to review that a little bit, when a man has a vision, an idea, right, accompanied by his will, that's initiating a pregnancy. He's putting that picture, that concept into the world. Right? And once the world or his society or immediate environment is impregnated with the idea, and it's followed up with the will, all the abundance necessary to make that idea into a finished product is drawn onto it. In other words, that idea, accompanied with the will, makes a pregnancy in the world. Once there is a pregnancy, the universal supply of abundance is drawn onto it, and it comes into being. And that's how the electric light, the computer chip, or the microchip, radar, sonar, the George Washington Bridge, the steamboat, the camera, all these things came about as the result of initiating a pregnancy. And once that pregnancy was initiated, all the abundance necessary for it to become a finished product was drawn onto it. So I indicated last week, instead of teaching those in substance abuse rehabilitation programs, prisoners, to go and get a job or go and get some schooling and then get a job, we should be teaching them to initiate a pregnancy, to have a vision of what they want to do. Then going to school and getting a job has a meaning. To go to school and get a job for its own sake has no meaning. It has no purpose. We related it briefly to a comparison with breathing. We all have to breathe to live, don't we? We all know that. But we don't live to breathe. You don't go visit with your friends and say, boy, I've been breathing good the last few hours. Oh, yesterday was a great day. Boy, was I breathing well all day. But we do know we have to breathe in order to live. Right? Well, we do need material things in order to live. But we're not living for those material things. Those material things are here for us in order to enable us to live as we grow spiritually, morally, ethically, whatever your viewpoint is in life. So to tell a person to go to school, to get a certificate, to get an education, to get a job without purpose, what does it lead to? It only leads to problems. It only leads to self-indulgence. It does not lead to accomplishment. On the other hand, when we have a vision, and that vision is accompanied by the will, then we have accomplishment. That's what the spiritual meaning of when you pray and you believe you have received it, it shall be yours. When you pray and you believe you have received it, it shall be yours. When you pray for something specific, that's the vision. When you believe you have received it, that's the pregnancy. It shall be yours is the result of that pregnancy, the production of what you first had in your mind. So we must have visions in our minds, and that is the masculine principle of society, and that is not what is being taught. Now, if we remove the visions and the will, what do we have in society? We have a very docile, feminine receptive society, waiting for someone to do things for us. And isn't that the way we approach all problems today? What is the government going to do about this? What is the state going to do about that? What is the mayor's office going to do about that? Do we have enough money for this program? Do we have enough money for that program? Is there enough schooling for this? Is there enough schooling for that? But we are always speaking, is there enough money? And we're always speaking in terms of what can be done for us, because we are living in a feminine receptive environment. A feminine receptive environment. Where are the men? Well, as we open our program, we have 1.5 million in prison, got 1 million in street gangs. I don't know how many in substance abuse centers. There's 5 million men on parole right now. So when we remove the masculine principle, we remove the initiatory force from society. And we're paying that price today. We're paying that price today. The proper relationship of the masculine and feminine principle, proper relationship of men and women. Men have the vision. They impart that vision with their will. Women nurture. They nurture that vision and help to produce it. Even if it's, say, a man at work, in his business, an inventor, a painter, a designer, his vision is being produced in large measure to the nurturing that his wife gives to him. You see, brothers and sisters, women are the caretakers of the material world, of the seen world, okay? They come out of the earth. That's why we call the earth mother. Women come out of the earth, okay? Men come out of the ether. Men deal in the unseen. Women deal in the seen. A coming together of the unseen and the unseen, and the seen produces life, produces harmony. One is dependent upon the other. When we remove one or the other, we remove the feminine principle. The masculine principle can't long endure by itself, and it produces coldness. When we remove the masculine principle, the feminine principle cannot endure by itself, and it results in chaos. In chaos. We have a chaotic society today. The masculine principle has been removed. There's no concept of right and wrong. Now, years ago, when young women and girls would get into trouble, they would say, if only my father had said, if only my father had said. Or maybe they even say, if only I had listened to my father. Well, now that we've pretty much eliminated fathers from society and made unwed motherhood a faster growing concept than wed motherhood, They can't complain about their fathers because they don't even know their fathers. So what does that do to our young women and girls? They have no concept of right and wrong. Think about that. No concept of right and wrong. Brothers and sisters, I will tell you, every woman, most every woman in her heart wants to be a good girl. And how does she measure being a good girl? By what the government says? Hardly. By what her girlfriends say? For sure not. So on what is her basis of being a good girl? Her basis of being a good girl is what men in general expect and what her man in particular expects. Now that we have removed the masculine influence from society, there are no standards anymore. And to compensate for the masculine influence, we enact laws. This is why this nation has so many attorneys. We have eliminated the masculine influence, so there is no longer ethics, morality, standards, which were normally established and enforced by men. The state, the society realizes that things are getting chaotic, so they enact more and more and more laws. We have 5% of the world's population here and 50% of its attorneys. Recently I read that there are more attorneys in the greater Washington area than there are in all of Japan. We have eliminated the masculine concept from our society. It doesn't work, therefore we try to enact laws. Okay? Laws are an ineffective attempt to compensate for the absence of the masculine principle. That's what laws are. The more upright, honest, ethical men there are, the less laws you need. Men and women need this interrelationship. The responsibility of the seen world and the unseen world, the coming together of the unseen and the seen, of the masculine and feminine principle. And now I say to you, my brothers out there, know this for a fact. Every woman wants to know what the parameters of her existence is. She wants to know. It provides a certain amount of security for her. And what every woman does instinctively when she goes out with a man, she pushes him to see where he will draw the line to the right, where he will draw the line to the left, where he will draw the line on the top, where he will draw the line on the bottom. Because then she knows where he stands and how to relate to him. Then she's going to spend the rest of her life moving the lines. But that's okay. See? She has a sense of security because when everything is established, then she, at her option, can decide what she's going to try and change. And everything is nice and secure. Now, in this world today, without the parameters, women don't know where they stand, and they're walking around out there confused. That's why they're going for therapy. That's why they're going to psychiatrists. That's why they're going to self-help centers, adult education programs. Take a good look around and see who attends these programs. 90% of them are women, and of those women, it's doubtful that more than 10% of them are married. Why aren't so many married women in these programs, in adult education classes, in self-help programs? Because married women already have the parameters of life. Married women already know what is expected of them and what they're going to do. They don't have to go out and find themselves. They found themselves. They have a husband and they have children. And they have an obligation and they know what they're supposed to do to fulfill that obligation. It's the single women that are running around trying to find themselves in their freedom, doing their own thing. And then as the years go by and what they say their biological clock is running, then they start getting desperate. Thinking about a man, thinking about having a family, which they should have done 20 years ago. Except they weren't raised or trained to think that way because there was no masculine principle around to give that kind of guidance, to set those standards. All right? This is what men do. They set standards. They enforce standards. They maintain the law. They provide a safe and secure environment in which the feminine principle can function. Now, if some of you ladies out there are saying, well, fine, but I don't know any men like that, or there aren't many men like that out there. Okay, that's why we're here. That's why this organization, Men's Action, or Men's Action to Rebuild Society, is here. We want to get those men and remind them of their natural masculine traits and encourage them and give and strengthen them to go out there and do the things that are supposed to be done. That's why we're here. That's what this organization is all about. And that's why, ladies, we get your support. We get a lot of support from women for this organization. Probably have sold more books to women than to men. All right? So, it's the unseen qualities of the masculine principle that makes it possible for the seen qualities of the feminine principle to function. To function, okay? And without that relationship, we have chaos. In everything, we have chaos, okay? So whether it's in interpersonal relations, or whether it's in the structure of businesses, of governments, of churches, or whatever, when the masculine principle is removed, there is chaos. I gave a lecture a few years ago to the Addicts Rehabilitation Center on 128th Street and Park Avenue in Harlem. And at that time, there were probably 150 people in attendance, their residents in attendance. They were being rehabilitated from the use of drugs. And I mentioned how the masculine and feminine principle were both at work at that center. There was the rules, the regulations, the structure. That was the masculine principle. And then there was the nurturing, welcoming people in, asking them their birthday, singing happy birthday, different things like that, nurturing them and bringing them in. And I said, what do you suppose would happen if the masculine principle were absent? And before I could get to the punchline, the women yelled out, there'd be chaos. There'd be chaos. They knew it before I said it. The women knew it before I said it. When you remove the men, there's chaos. Don't we live in a chaotic society? We live in a feminine-oriented society, right? And what do we have? Chaos. So we're building more prisons, having more police, having more therapy, having more crime. That's called chaos. Having more kids live in the street, that's called chaos. And we're trying to compensate for this chaos, for this lack, to control this chaos, which is really the lack of the masculine influence in society, by passing laws. Laws, 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 and more laws. And of course, we don't believe in the spirit of the law, which is a masculine viewpoint. We believe in the letter of the law, the literal law, which is a feminine viewpoint. And you can always wiggle around the law. So we have more and more lawyers for everything. You can't do anything today anymore without a lawyer, right? And you know what the scriptures say? Just say yes or no, right? If we just said yes or no, if we just spoke the truth today, 90% of the lawyers would be out of business. But when you have a society that's not masculine oriented, you can't get by with yes and no, okay? And this is why standards have fallen apart. All right? This is why standards have fallen apart. We need the unseen qualities of the masculine principle in order for the seen qualities of the feminine principle to function. Right? We find this amongst animals. We find it amongst humans. Time doesn't permit me to give a multitude of illustrations now, but I can tell you this, brothers and sisters, in the animal world, in the world of mammals, females are rarely upset. When they have problems, when they have stress, the male presence comes in and takes care of the problem, whatever the problem might be. An attack from some other animals, difficulty with the young males. Whatever cause of stress, or whatever stress-inducing factor there may be, the males take care of it. So the female mammal is relaxed. She's calm, for the most part, because when she's in trouble, the masculine presence is around. That's what he's there for. See, the unseen influence. She is the seen influence. She's raising the children, well, let's say lions, the cubs. She's foraging for food. Right? The seen world. The unseen world is the masculine principle, the mapping out of the territory, the eye that's forever watching, right? The force that's forever available when needed, the constancy, reliability, right? Courage, loyalty. See, that's what makes, a pride of lions work. That's what makes a troop of baboons work. Right? That's what makes a herd of deer work. Right? And that's what makes a society of human beings work. Right? The interrelationship of the masculine and feminine principles. I ask that you think about that and observe it this week as you go on and about your business. I thank you for being with us this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, and goodbye.